Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Breaking down our football rankings here for heading into week two of the high school football season in Sonoma County. It's a great week one of action. We got obviously a lot more fun stuff coming your way this week and in the coming weeks of non-league play. But Keenan, let's turn our attention just real quickly here to our top seven teams. We do have some changes. I think there were probably a couple surprises in week one. Maybe not so much of the score, but I think, of the result, but I think of the score. A couple teams have dropped, a couple teams have risen. We're going to start with one of the teams that has actually dropped out of our top seven. We already have some shakeup there, but falling out is number 6 Yucaipa. They are out of the top seven after week one. Kind of fell flat in their opener a little bit against Rancho Cotati. Again, a lot of credit goes to Rancho. 4 picks, turned that into 17 points. And, again, the final score was 40-22. So you could really say that was the difference in the game. But, Yucaipa definitely, we're not their sharpest, save for Amari Phillips Porter, 258 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Definitely a big bright spot for them. But, first game jitters, good opponent. You definitely picked them to win. I think that was a good pick, looking back, obviously. But, looking ahead, I think that Yucaipa, I think they have a very winnable game this week against Dublin. But, it might have to be because they have Chico and San Marin coming up after their bye the following week. So some tough sledding coming up for Yucaipa. But they are that's kind of our first big change, I guess, for our rankings here heading into week two.
Yeah. And when we said last week that these rankings are going to be very fluid, this is the reason why for for things like this.
Especially after week one, yeah.
Yeah, especially after week one. And yeah, Gus, you were up there in Mendocino County, watching it firsthand and yeah, Yucaipa's got plenty of reason as to why they could bounce back, especially a Dublin team. I know they lost to Dublin last year, but a lot of guys back. The promise is certainly there. I know you were pretty high on Yucaipa coming into the season. I know a lot of people were as well, especially up there in Yucaipa. So, yeah, definitely could be a big bounce back week for them. But as for now, the loss to Rancho, we took them out of our top seven there.
Yep, and we'll see if and when that they can get back in. But yeah, definitely our first big change of the year. Jumping in now to our top seven. No change here at number 7. Vintage lost last week to Las Lomas 28-14. Not going to cost them really anything. Las Lomas is a very good team. Should be one of the better teams. Actually, I'd say probably a season long, probably top 15 team in the NCS, if top 20, top 15. So definitely Las Lomas. 2-score loss, not the best, but again, very quality opponent that Vintage played. Bit of a surprise for me though was looking at the score or at the stat sheet and saw that Vintage only rushed for 39 yards. Not at all what Vintage is kind of all about. So again, Las Lomas very good. Very good team. I think the San Jose Mercury News has them ranked 16 in their Bay Area rankings, and they also should be a contender in the Diablo Valley Foothill League with Campo Lindo and Clayton Valley Charter. So nothing. No change there. Very good opponent for Vintage, and I do expect them to bounce back this week against Fairfield.
Yeah, totally. Same here. Las Lomas. We saw them last year. They were very good, and it seems like they haven't dropped a beat since last year at all. So very tough opponent for Vintage, but also a great experience and learning experience there for Dylan Leach and company. Definitely going to need games like that, especially with the Adobe Vision division coming up there and the tough games they have in league play. So yeah, but Vintage stays solid there at number 7.
Coming to number 6, big riser this week is American Canyon, coming off of a season opening 41-21 win over Wood last week. Very solid win over Wood. I don't know a whole lot about Wood, but again, they beat them by 20. So definitely, I'd say the strongest showing of any of our bubble teams last week, and just probably couldn't put Vintage put Vintage up a spot after a loss. So American Canyon coming in at number 6 this week. Big test next week coming up this week against Foothill Pleasanton, which just beat a very good Division One team in Heritage. So we'll see what American Canyon does this week against much tougher competition.
Yeah, I was talking to head coach Trevor Hudson after the game, and he said, it wasn't pretty, but we got the job done. I know it was very close in the first half or whatever, but American Canyon's talent kind of shone through there in the second half. And if they put up 41 points on Wood and that wasn't a pretty performance, imagine what their offense could do if they're fully humming and stuff like that. But like you said, big test this week. Foothill out of the East Bay League Valley Division with Dublin and Granada and Livermore and all those tough schools down there. So should be a good one. I know they're at home, they're home cooking. So if American Canyon's talent is fully on display and they beat Foothill, shouldn't be any surprise if they stay in the rankings for another week.
Absolutely. Coming in here at number 5, another big mover this week was Casa Grande, slipping down 2 spots after that. I guess butt kicking against Cardinal Newman earlier or last week. 61-14 was the final in that one. We both picked Newman to win, but I do think it was a bit of a surprise. The final deficit, I think, was a bit of a surprise, considering also that this was a 2-score game last year when these two teams opened the season. So I do still think that this is more indicative of how good Cardinal Newman is versus an indictment on Casa. But maybe again 3 might have been a little too high for Casa to open the year. But again, that's why these are fluid and we update them every week. So we'll definitely find out kind of what I guess where Casa kind of stands up or stacks up, I guess, in the area. This week they have Balboa, but in the coming weeks they have Rancho Cotati and San Marin. So we'll definitely find out pretty quick, where Casa kind of stacks up, I guess, amongst some of these better local teams.
Yeah, this is the perfect example of what Gus said at the top of the show. Not surprised really at the result, but surprised at the score. It was just a terrible start for Casa, and against a team like Newman, who's that good, you just can't make those mistakes early on. Newman took advantage and left. Kept their foot to the gas, really, if you can say that. So, like you said, Casa the next 3 games will be very indicative of their season. Keep in mind, last year they lost to Newman in the opener and then won on a 9-game winning streak and won the VVAL. So, you never know. They still could be favorites over there. I believe in the Valley. But yeah, next 3 games are crucial for Casa. But as of now, they drop a couple spots.
Yep. Jumping to number 4 now, we have St. Vincent. No change from their preseason rankings. Took care of De Anza pretty nicely, 48-6. Very good tune-up though for this coming week. They have a massive test. They're hitting the road for a big game against the 2-time reigning defending Nevada state champion in Truckee, who's already 2-0 on the year. I will say there aren't many games that St. Vincent probably won't be favored in this year, but I think this could be one of them. So Truckee will definitely be a big test here for St. Vincent coming up this week. But yeah, no change for them this week, staying at number 4.
State champion versus state champion. I like it. These are the kind of games we love to see. I know a couple years back, St. Vincent made a trip out to the Tahoe area to play over in Incline. They're back again playing Truckee this year. But they just took care of business in their opener. Don't see why they shouldn't have moved up, moved down. Staying at 4 is kind of the right place for them after week 1.
Mm-hmm. Coming in at number 3, definitely a big. I think our biggest riser this year, Rancho Cotati, or this week, Rancho Cotati jumping from number 5 to number 3. Again, we mentioned their 40-22 win over previously number 6 Yucaipa last week. I wouldn't go as far to say that this was a statement win by any means. I think that this was the final score I don't think is probably indicative of how close this game probably could have been. Again, the game was it was a 3-score game kind of early in the 4th, and Yucaipa had a chance to cut it to a 2-score game. And honestly, with how Rancho's offense had been moving at times, there was definitely a chance that Yucaipa could have gotten a stop, gotten the ball back, scored, and then all of a sudden it's a whole different game. But instead, what happened was Yucaipa had first and goal at the 3. came away with 0 points. Rancho Cotati's defense stood tall, as it did kind of all night, really. But I will say that this is kind of I guess the showing that Rancho had this last week really kind of showed what the potential of what they can be this year. Really strong defense, great special teams. Gio Martinez was just absolutely dynamic, 300 all-purpose yards, opening kickoff return touchdown. Just awesome game from him. And again, their defense too. They had 4 picks. I mentioned that earlier in the Ukiah section, but 4 interceptions turned that into 17 points. And then again, the goal line stop in the 4th, and 2 plays after they got that stop, Martinez broke away for a 94-yard touchdown. So again, I don't think Rancho is going to be putting up 40 points a game, and I think their staff will probably say the same thing. But this is definitely a great start for them this year, going forward this week into what I think is a very winnable game against Redwood coming up on Friday. So great start to the year for Rancho, and they're up to number 3 heading into week 2.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. That defense is pretty scary. To bring back pretty much everybody on that defensive side of the ball in terms of starters. So that's definitely going to carry them in the first couple weeks, until their offense gets a little more consistent. Like you said, I don't think they're going to be scoring 40 points a game. But this is a very winnable game coming up against Redwood. I know they lost in heartbreaking fashion last year against Redwood at their place. So Redwood's traveling up to Roner Park, and I know Rancho's going to be ready. So, but got to give them their flowers. Got to reward them for a pretty big win over then number 6 Ukiah. So they jump up to number 3 there.
Absolutely. No change in our top 2 spots. Windsor coming in at number 2, Newman at number 1. We'll start with Windsor, who beat Anley 48-7 last week. Kind of same thing, took care of business. And again, even with all that roster turnover that they had from last year's team, that's now 8 straight wins they have over Anley, dating back to 2010. Definitely excited to kind of see what this week brings against a Hayward team that looks really that looks very athletic. Could be a sneaky competitive game. I know the rankings on Cal Preps and Max Preps would indicate that this probably would be a pretty one-sided Windsor win, but I think people could see a more entertaining game than you might first look on paper, I guess, in this one. So good start for Windsor. 1-0, took care of business, and we'll see if they can move the 2-0 this week against Hayward.
Yeah, no, absolutely, totally with you there. They got they got a couple tough weeks ahead. Obviously, Hayward this week, and then the big one, Camp Lindo, next week should really kind of see really where Windsor is at, especially with that roster turnover. But obviously, taking care of business week 1 is all they needed to do, and they stick at the 2 spot.
Absolutely. And coming in at number 1, like we said, Cardinal Newman, absolute drubbing of Casa Grande, 61-14. I think, again, biggest win, I think, of the week for anybody. Statement win, I think, no doubt. Again, Casa was our number 3 team to open the year, and people definitely thought that, all right, hey, this might be some kind of a competitive game, and it just wasn't from the get-go. So, again, everyone really got involved. I think that was kind of one of the big things that I saw from this game. 7 guys scored touchdowns. Their defense was obviously outstanding. Didn't give up. I think that second touchdown they gave up came in the second half, when I think most of Newman's reserves were in at that point. So 3 turnovers also for that defense as well. So again, much bigger test coming up this week against Vacaville. Vacaville's 1-1. I think they're a top 15 team in the Sac Joaquin section. Newman did win the matchup last year by 20. It was 27-7. And I think that one really propelled, I think, Newman to the great season that they had last year. And I think it was also kind of a bit of a surprising, big win for Newman at that point. But I think this year it'll be a much tighter game. Just looking at kind of the early season results for Vacaville. They beat small school powerhouse Escalon in week 1, close game in that one. And then they just lost by 3 to a powerhouse in the Sac Joaquin section in Granite Bay by 3 last week. So 1-1 for Vacaville. They definitely had two very tough opponents to open up, and a third one will be coming into town for in Cardinal Newman, but I think they're well prepared for this one. So excited to see what that one brings, especially for Newman, which we'll be facing its first real big test this season.
Yeah, Newman beating Casa for the sixth straight time dating back to 2014 there. Like you said, everybody was involved. Zion Cargill, had an amazing first half, 140 yards receiving on 6 catches and one score all in the first half. Like you said, everybody got involved. Freshman quarterback LT Rematosa got a lot of time there. So yeah, Newman's offense can be very scary when they're humming, and their defense is as advertised. But like you said, they do have some tests before league season starts, and we'll see where they're at after their preseason slate. But you know, with a scoreline like that and putting up 61 points, I don't think they're not going anywhere as far as our rankings. They stick at our number one spot.
No doubt about that. Well, that's about all we have for you guys this week. Another good slate of action coming up. Our game of the week will be Sonoma Valley versus Montgomery. Should be a good matchup of some two 1-0 teams looking to kind of build on some early season success. We'll also have some other coverage, I believe, of Petaluma Santa Rosa, and maybe some other game, or definitely some other games as well. But still trying to figure out our coverage plan for this week. But that about does it for us for our week 2 rankings here. But yeah, stay tuned, and we'll be coming back. We'll be coming back with these more throughout the season. But we'll be catching you guys next week.
See you guys.